I know that many of us come from a Christian background of some kind, and so at this time that we call Easter, we all have a tendency to turn and return to our upbringing, no matter how it happened that we celebrated it or didn't, depending on how things were in our family. I know that my upbringing was pretty much secular in that I got underwear from the Easter Bunny. And that sort of, that was sort of, I got a few eggs and some underwear and a new dress and in those days a bonnet and some gloves. So. But it is a time for us to think about the symbolism of the resurrection of Jesus, and to turn within and see what kind of meaning that we can make for us in a world in which individuals rediscover their personal power to create an individual life that works within a world that works for everyone. We're both called to and responsible for creating our life. And there's so many ways to avoid doing that, to blame other people for the circumstances that we see happening around us and within us in our culture. But in religious science, we look for ways to do conscious work within the law of cause and effect to create a life and a world that we really want, that really works for us. So Easter is the Christian celebration of Jesus' resurrection. But Ernest Holmes tells us that Jesus was the great example rather than the great exception. And that it is up to us to create meaning for ourselves using the symbolism of Jesus' resurrection. And so we can take it literally that he did indeed arise from the grave and move out of the tomb, or, because I wasn't there, could have happened. But what does that mean for me now in this time, in this place? It's time for us to think about it on a personal level. And, we all go through that whole personal resurrection. We have had times of darkness, times of being in a cave, feeling lost and alone. And then we can count on others, angels within our lives or within ourselves, to allow us to move out of that darkness into the light. We are resurrecting, remembering our power. And we have this great power, but if we don't know about it, we can't use it. The dictionary defines resurrect as bringing back to life or bringing new life to. And that means that we have always been powerful. We have our own personal power, our Christ self, our alignment with Spirit. And our job is to remember that. Viktor Frankl, in his Man's Search for Meaning, said this: "If you take a man as he really is, you make him worse. But if we overestimate him, if we seem to be idealists in our overestimating and overrating man and looking at him that from high above, you know what happens? We promote him to what he really can be. So we have to be idealists in a way, because then we wind up as the true, real realists. You know who has said this? If we take man as he is, we make him worse. But if we take man as he should be, we make him capable of becoming what he can be. So if you don't recognize a young man's way of meaning, man's search for meaning, you make him worse. You make him dull. You make him frustrated. You still add and contribute to his frustration. While if you presuppose this man, this so-called criminal, juvenile, delinquent, or drug abuser, and so forth, and we can use this for ourselves in whatever way that we language what's wrong with us. If we presuppose this man, there must be a spark of search for meaning. Recognize this. Let's presuppose it, and then you will elicit it from him. You will make him become what he is in principle, what he is capable of being. And so we can translate that for ourselves. Presupposing what we are capable of being and of becoming. And that's the issue of personal resurrection. Remembering who we are and becoming once more the possibility and the potential that we have within us. Rumi said, "We are the mirrors as well as the face in it." Meaning that there is only one. There's God and there's us and God, and it's all the same. We are the mirror, and we are the one that we see in it. We're filled with divine potential. We're filled with divine magnificence. This is the time of resurrection, springtime, this time of renewal, of blossoming, to take a look at our own lives and our own selves and say to ourselves, where are we in the tunnel? Where are we in the darkness? And we can get really depressed about what we see going on around us, or we can celebrate it and know that the goodness is the truth of what is. Not only do we have the potential, but every human on this earth that we encounter has the potential of resurrection, of becoming who they are, of moving the blocks that are in their way, of moving the blocks that are in our way, and growing and expanding into who we are, the truth of our being. I read a story not long ago, and I don't know who it was, so I can't attribute it. I don't know how it came across my awareness. But it was a fellow who had a heart attack, and then he had a near-death experience. And he said, people say that no matter what, near-death experiences are wonderful, magnificent situations and circumstances. However, he did not experience beauty or sweetness or peace or harmony in his near-death experience. He said there was a darkness, as though he was in a tunnel. And there were beings there that were trying to take him someplace he did not want to go. And it was dark and it was depressing. And he begged. He begged for a redemption. He begged for another opportunity to love his family and to be the man that he believed that he could be. And he heard clearly some of these beings say, "Oh, just forget him. There are plenty more that we can find." And so he was brought back to life with a determination to live his life well, to be with his family, and to be the highest and best that he could be. Within a few days, less than a week, He totally had rationalized that experience and talked himself out of it and returned to his selfish, narrow, ugly self. It had no power over him. So, a few years later, he had a stroke, a lower brain stem stroke, that caused him to be unable to stand on his feet. He was very, very dizzy, and so they took him to the hospital, and the doctors in the emergency room said, "Oh, you have an inner ear problem." So they gave him some medication for his dizziness, told him to go home, stay in bed for a week, and he would be fine. Well, he wasn't fine. And the stroke increased and continued. He lost the use of his legs. And they finally diagnosed the stroke. But he was very bitter and very angry for years, blaming the doctors in the emergency room who had told him that it was an inner ear problem. Ultimately, he found his way to a psychologist, and he was bemoaning his situation in life and saying, "Why me? Why did this happen to me?" And his psychiatrist, therapist, kindly and gently said to him, "Why not you? What makes you so special? Do you think you're the only one with problems? We all have problems. It's our attitude and choices in life that makes the difference. You can continue to blame the emergency room doctors and take it out on the world and worry about what you have lost. Or you can thank God for what you have left. You could be on dialysis or in an iron lung. You could be blind, deaf, mute, lost your sense of feel, taste, or smell, or even be brain dead. Not everyone is as lucky as you. And that is what turned his life around. The doctor said, "Many people don't get a second chance. We are all given only so much time here on earth. We need to use it wisely. And you, of all people, having had that near-death experience, should know that. You can continue time wasting, wallowing in your pride and self-pity, or make the most of the time that you have left. It's your choice." So we can all say that for ourselves. Now's the time for us to come out of our tomb and engage in life. Now's the time for us to evaluate where we are feeling, "Why me?" And ask ourselves, "Why not me? Why not me, that I can sparkle and shine and glow and really make a difference in the world, really change someone's life? Why not you?" Do you need to go through a death experience before you wake up and move the rocks out and the stones out of your road? Do you need to suffer pain? Do you need to be in the darkness? Why not you? Why not you? Being filled with joy and laughter and peace. Being an effort in make a difference in other people's lives as well as your own. Expressing the absolute nature of your being. Why not do that? I want to share with you my beloved Mark Napo's journey to awakening. I haven't talked about him in a long time, but here we go. Couldn't be Easter without Mark Napo. On May 12th, he says, "We waste so much energy trying to cover up who we are, when beneath every attitude is the want to be loved, and beneath every anger is the wound to be healed, and beneath every sadness is the fear that there will not be enough time." He continues, "When we hesitate in being direct, we unknowingly slip something on, some added layer of protection that keeps us from feeling the world. And often, that thin covering is the beginning of loneliness, which, if not put away or put down, diminishes our chances for joy. It's like wearing gloves every time we touch something, and then forgetting we chose to put them on. We complain that nothing feels quite real. In this way, our challenge every day is not to get dressed to face the world, but to unglove ourselves so that the doorknob feels cold, and the car handle feels wet, and the kiss goodbye feels like the lips of another being, soft and unrepeatable." Taking off our gloves, taking off our armor, taking off all of the facade that we walk around in the world with, pretending to be who we are not, pretending to be who we think someone else wants us to be, being in the darkness of our essence, forgetting the truth of who we are, the power of our being. This day, today, is as good a time as any to step out of that darkness, to step into the light of who we are, to be allowing ourselves to be resurrected. That can happen any day. That can happen any moment. That can happen whenever someone says to you, "Why not you?" But this is just as good a day as any. The symbolism of the resurrection of the Christ, the alignment with the divine. Knowing that Jesus was the great example rather than the great exception. Knowing that we have the same full potential as Jesus did. To be our Christ self, to be in alignment with our being. Ernest Holmes said, "We're rediscovering, resurrecting, not creating our power. We have this great power, but if we don't know about it, we can't use it." So what is our power? It is our alignment with the divine. It is our expression of the divine. It is who we are. That is our power. Not hiding in a tomb, not hiding from the lights. Stepping into who we are. The self chooses, Ernest continues. We have chosen nothing, and that is why we have nothing. When we wake up and begin to desire something, we shall find it is right there. This we do. Not only is there an activity of mind and spirit ready, but it is surging forward with tremendous power. The seed that grows in the crevice in the wall. The seed that grows in the crevice of the wall has power to burst the wall. We are as powerful as any seed. We have an opportunity to burst forth into the light and be the truth of who we are. Be the potential that we are given when we arrive in this world, to move the barriers, to allow ourselves to be the very essence of who we are. And so on this morning of Easter, this blessed day that we celebrate the Christness of Jesus, I would invite you to look at the places where you're still in the tunnel, in the cave, in the dark, where you're living from a space that is cramped and less of who you truly are. I would invite you today to take a look at your life, to ask yourself where you can expand into your divinity. To see yourself as you look in the mirror as the truth of your being. To see your glory, your divinity, and your power. To take off the gloves that have been smothering the truth of who you are. And so when I conclude by saying, Namaste, I am saying the God in me recognizes and acknowledges the God in you. Namaste. Namaste. So I would invite the practitioners to stand with me and hold the consciousness of this community. As they know the truth of who you are. That you are God made manifest, standing in the light. So I step into that awareness of my personal power as I invite you to remember and know your personal power. That your thoughts are the cause, and you can always change your mind. You can always come out of the darkness, step into the light of your God self. I know that there is one mind, one power, one divine essence. It is God's life. And God's life is perfect. Therefore, your life is perfect. It is your divine life now. Whatever conversation that you have within yourself about lack or limit or inability or weakness or disease or sadness or anything else, that is purely your choice. And I invite you right now, this moment, to have a different conversation with yourself, to stand at cause, to know that you are the light of the world. And I invite you to allow that light to shine. I invite you to allow yourself to be part of the light as we create a world that works for everyone. A world that is a happy place to be. Knowing that the universe cannot be whole, it can't be perfect, it cannot be complete without your presence. You have a task to perform, and that is to stand in joy, to stand in the light, to stand in your power, create a world that does work, that is filled with love. To see it where it shows up. And I celebrate now the very essence of my personal resurrection and your personal resurrection. I know it is perfect, it is good, it cannot be otherwise. And I invite you to own that with me as we stay together. And so